Okay, so it started off that I wasn't enthused at all to do a video. I decided I'll do it anyway. And now it's converged into something else because I've had these little dramas. The light's not the best, okay, where I want to have it. Just doesn't work. So it's turned into a bit of the classic damned if you do, damned if you don't. I'll do it anyway, or I'll do it later, or maybe this is the little test, you see. I'll forget about it. Maybe it's a sign I'm not meant to do a video. Or maybe it's a sign to see if I will persist. So let that be, let's say, the hook. If I've kept your attention long enough, and to say from my own experience that there's always going to be something. The classic, like it'll never be perfect, because I'm sharing this with you in regards to the weather right now where I am. It's just, I really would like to move the sitting pelican. It's an old 30-foot Huon pine, old crayfish boat. I believe it's called Carvel planked, something along those lines, okay? Same goes here. The light, it's where I want the camera is not exactly where I want the camera. Let's remember what this is all about. Doing what I can with what I have to lead me towards. Maybe this is not the exact outcome I want right now. But if I don't initiate something, see, this is the thing I'm gradually grasping onto. And actually, before I continue, if I could just hold a little suspense there. Shout out to Connor the Woodsman and David Gallett, I believe. Videos came up in my feed. I just thought, here's a chap with a high-vis jacket on. What's he got to say? And I must say, if you ever come across this video, Connor, I related to that, and I'm sure a lot of other people related to that. So I appreciate you for creating that video. And as to David, for just reminding about your own worth, and that it's a belief. So going back to when I said, finally getting a grasp and grip on being the instigator. And that's part of this creation, isn't it? Like, instigate. I have to move. I have to be the source of movement. This is tricky, really. I have to hold that there. Okay. And I'm in this thinking that I just need to get moving with the boat, get the boat prepped to go, right, we're just going to trudge along, do some research, navigational research along the river here, and there's a decent traverse, I believe the word's traverse, across Storm Bay. And this is the biggest trip I've ever taken across water. Now, to many experienced sailors or boaties, this is a nothing. But to someone this is 40 nautical miles. My biggest trip is, I believe, 8, and that's a round trip. So just coming back to being the instigator of the movement and doing what I can with what I have to lead me towards. And that's me then creating the momentum. I believe that's not like what I believe is not what you believe, because I'm sitting in my boat the other day and I'm like, I don't know how any of this wonderful stuff works. Like, I don't know. So why allow my mind to be heavily occupied with what I do not know really anything about? Because someone told someone, right? But where was the original source of all this wonderful stuff that we know or that people talk about, like the universe and law of attraction and manifestation and soulmates and the mental powers and all of these things? They seem feasible because somewhere in our mind we're making a comparison with relative information. So, like, what's true, what's not true? It's a perspective. It's all a perspective. And yeah, that's important. It is. Well, this is the thing. What I'm saying, it needn't be something you need to agree with, nor someone say something back to me. I needn't agree with it. It's coming back to what resonates with me. What's the benefit? There has to be an absolute truth in that, for sure. Like, what is the benefit? If I was to put stones in my pocket and walk into water, that type of action, it's not beneficial. We go back to Connor the Woodsman and his video about you've consumed enough, God wants you to create something along those lines. And I was like, man, I totally relate with that, because I've been of the same thinking, like over consuming. And somewhere in these videos I have leaned towards that consumption is part of creation. Just look at the way not just the world works or society works, look how nature works. Like a tree consumes a mineral or whatever and then creates a fruit, and then an animal comes along and it consumes the fruit, and then maybe it creates waste, right? Then that waste becomes a fertilizer, which is then consumed by the plant. Like a cycle, right? A cycle. So then it's up to me to have some type of intelligence, some type of will to dictate, to be the director. Okay, I can create. So let me create a standard of what I consume that aids me in my creative abilities. And I go back to there will always be something along the way, though. There will always be something. That's what I was saying. Like, it's always something. And then pulling back and just like, you bought an old boat, mate. Right. Then why did you do that? And just having these reflective, let's say, seesaw type of conversations with the self. Well, I wanted the experience, right? I wanted the experience of learning how to put an old boat back into working order, and there is an accomplishment. And something turned up the other day, got my throat a little bit, was I came up with the answer to give to my dad. Unfortunately, my dad's not here physically. Okay. So I'm just going to make the assumption that he can hear me, or anyway, however that works. And I spoke out loud and said, I finally got the answer for you, Dad. If I relay like a conversation with my dad, it was, well, why don't you get it already done up, son? Let's say the boat. Why don't you already get a boat that's got all, the stuff that you want? And I was finally able to go, I can give you, because Dad. Why? Because, yeah, that's all good and dandy, but I'm buying someone else's experiences. Okay, now I become the owner of the boat and I get to have experiences with the boat, but I miss a chunk of the experience that came with restoring the boat. That makes sense. And that's a reminder to myself as well. What are the experiences that I want to become the owner of? And then that comes back to, well, what do I got to create? What is it that I need to instigate? Be the source of my own motivation through the pushing. Something came up about the flow. And flow is movement. So that before movement, there must be a source of movement. Power, generating power, learning a lot about 12 volts, elf grid, these type of things, solar power, energy, charge controllers, and how all that works. Like, it's simple, but there's complexities to it as well. But the analogy of the generation of power is, it comes from movement. Wow, isn't that interesting? For one source, there must be a production of another source. Example, solar energy. Well, without the sun, there is no solar energy. There's no energy, but I need the energy from the sun. Yeah. Then if we go back to consumption, this is another refinement. Gradually filtering out the non-beneficial consumptions. So whereas before I would just flick, I'm now consciously going, that's something that is of no benefit to me. I'm not interested, or hit the 3 dots in the top right, even report. Get rid of that. That's nonsense. That's harassment. That's fake. That's just crap. Or hide. So taking the time to literally remove non-beneficial sources of consumption. And then looking at the other realms with the eating, gradually breaking that down. And, teeth needing fixing. And, well, if I keep eating a certain way, and because I've ate a certain way and I lived life in a certain way and consumed certain things, my teeth are now paying the price for it. So suffering, how do I describe this? Because it's a realization to me. And it may seem let's say a hard pill to swallow, just for lack of better words. The suffering is actually a really good friend. Because without the suffering and paying attention to myself through that, I don't get to see where I really need to put my focus and my energy into the improvements, where I need to really put my creative force. And if I sit around and wait for the perfect, it may not come, and I may not be in a position to capitalize on it. There's a sensibility as well, if I come back to the boat and weather and things like this, and having, what's that plan called? Contingency plan. The weather comes from here, I can go from there. If I miss the tide, okay, I can go from there. These type of things, contingency plan. Then it's after that, I need to act and instigate and get out there on the tide, ride the wind, and because it's a motor sailor, you see. So it's understanding how the boat works with its rigging. It's a totally different system than being on an open cockpit sailing boat, which I like, but I like the idea of a motor sailor as a liveaboard and the sailing boat as a more explorative expedition vessel. That makes sense. And someone say, why not have one? Well, I like the idea of having two. You see? There's one will be my floating home, and then one's my little expeditioner. And that's the other thing, is without doing this, I would have stayed in that perpetual maybe do I, don't I? I'm going through that now with the van. And then I realized that's like, oh yeah, but you said. So even though it may be practical and more economical for me just to invest in another van, I'm not honoring my word about all the story either by keeping this old van on the road, the Flying Crow. That's in my Facebook profile, right? 3 boats, a van, and a man, all need repair. Or Iron Wake Maritime is restoring the vessel, restoring the man. And that might be a clue. That may be that little spark, perhaps, that little something for you to consume and then convert into an instigation towards what is it that you seek to create, which is, what's your story? Or to say it make a good story, go back to finally be able to give my dad the answer of, yeah, I could go get another van and all that, Dad. But what I'm actually after is the owner of all the experiences and the story of fixing up an old van that took me all over across Australia, up into the highlands of Victoria and up and down through the valleys of New South Wales. And then to say up through the snow and the west coast of Tassie, you see, and then to have these boats and these photos and these memories. And then in closing, it all comes down, what I realize, I've mentioned this before, I believe I have, it's worth mentioning again, it's effort. So yeah, there'll be that suffering because, like I said, yeah, the suffering is the good friend who tells you the truth. The tooth are aching, or there's a suffering. Well, because you have eaten in a certain way, you've done things right that are non-beneficial, and now you're on your accumulation of all of that is now playing havoc with your teeth. So if you continue to dismiss that and not alter, and when I say you, this is me having a conversation with me, right? I'm not giving you a lecture at all. That, yeah, unless I change, literally change, and instigate and create a new, healthier, beneficial way of consumption, it's going to cost me. One way or another, there's going to be a cost, and that's another thing that just comes up. It doesn't matter how much I try and bypass or shortcut or be dismissive of things. I am going to either suffering is a current type of currency, or a cost. And like I said, there will always be something. It's up to me to learn the skills, the habits, practices that put me in a position that minimize these things, minimize their impact. And that definitely comes from another thing I've mentioned and also feel it's important to share is the weight of my intentions, because that's what's going to carry me through. But what are my reasons for doing this? Like I said, go back to, well, it's about the story or making these videos. there's a possibility someone will come across it. It'll be enough for them to steer them towards the light again. Like Connor the Woodsman or David Gallard, I believe. I just remember seeing David sitting on the chair, wind in the hair and the roses in the background, just very calm. But he was coming from a position of truth. He was speaking the truth. It was nothing fancy, but it was genuine, and a lot of that's missing. But it was his intentions. He didn't even have a fancy sign off. I was waiting for the sign off. There was no sign. I'm like, oh, the video's finished? Oh. Wow, how about that? Like, here I am, be good, be great. Be good, be the best you can, and do what you... Maybe I need to stop doing that. Maybe I don't need to do that. But I like it. I like doing that, though. What's the harm? Just to remind whoever's watching this video or listening to say, be good, be great, be brilliant. But pick... What's that saying, you know? Pick up where I left off, or whatever it is. I've noticed also just comparison. Comparison is another killer of your dreams, or of your will, or of your ambitions, of your own momentum. That moment where I've just gone, oh, maybe I should have. It's like, oh, bang, there we go. I've just killed my own momentum, and the momentum, like I said about the source, by being a source to create another source. So, wow, yeah, so I'm the sun. Without the energy of my will, or my willingness, all that exists outside of me, however it works in the universe, can never actually produce itself, because I'm not producing anything. There's that fella there this morning. I was consuming some beneficial information about... He said it was about manifestation. He said, I'll give it to you real simple, really easy, and I'm going to regurgitate it here. Based on the laws, I believe there's the law of correspondence. If there's a situation, and then there's certain elements that create that situation, okay? And he said, so if you're here in this reality, and you're like, it's not the best, I'd rather that reality. And he said, okay, so in that reality, what are the sensations? He gave the example. In that reality, you might be feeling peace, love, and joy. Okay? That would cover most situations, right? Peace, love, and joy. Those sensations. Okay. So they exist over in a situation or a reality that you'd rather be the occupier or owner of. Okay? You said, well, what if you just start practicing learning to amplify those sensations here? Because here is the why to that. Why would you do that? Based on that law of correspondence. If there are certain sensations that exist in a situation, then it would mean that if you were to create these sensations, that eventually you would create or produce that situation. That could be a true or false. But if you hear it out loud, just let it be, or listen to it out loud. There's a situation that has sensations that are better than the sensations in my current situation. Because if that's the case, and it does make sense, if I think and feel in a certain way, I'm going to eventually occupy a certain outcome. The clue to it as well, though, and I've noticed it a little bit, the moment where I've like made a decision, you know what, I don't want that, because I need to give it to myself first. That all of a sudden, hang on, I'm starting to get the thing that I said, well, I don't want that. The reason being, he says, because you disconnect from the want, because now you're moving through space in a fulfillment of the sensations. Does that make sense? So he said, based on the laws, now in the physical realm, it is doing everything it can to conspire to actually produce the physical result of the thing that you wanted, then said that you don't want, because you're already fulfilled with the sensations. So then the situation actually then manifests itself. Maybe not exactly how we imagine it, but as Napoleon Hill says, in its physical equivalent. And I may have gone to the moon and back on this video. If you came in at, there will always be something in the way, you just need to keep trudging on. But that's the thing. There's so many examples that I can give to you, and they'll keep coming up little bit by little bit. This video is one of them. Sitting in my van, I've got the interior light or the cab light on, and there's nothing really here to capture you visually. It's all just words. There's no background music. There's no little clips here that you get from the, whatever they're called, those softwares or websites where you get the little images. No, just the man in the van sharing his ideas about my own experiences with myself. I must say though, I've done this a few times, sitting here, have a coffee, and I wait for the sun to come up. Little things. That's the same with the boat. Like, want this boat done, and it's a process, my friend. Remind myself, it's a process. It's the little things. Like, if you were to have a look at the boat, you would not think I've done much at all. But I was just scrolling through the photos to get rid of some of the photos so I could actually give myself some memory to do this video. That, yeah, there's been all these like minute, microscopic, and some major alterations here and there to get me to where I am, to be in the position where I'm considering I'm very close to now heading on down. I've done a couple of sea trials. Okay. Considering on going for another big one today. And that's the other thing. So, okay, you don't necessarily need to do the run, the full run. You can still do a decent run, 10 nautical miles down the river, and come back 10 nautical miles. That's 20 nautical miles. We do an assessment. We can stop in along the way. Okay, you can stop in along the way, mister. But just, yeah, get yourself out on the water again. And then make the assessment. If I hear a sound, okay. You can't pull over in a boat, but you look for a cove, you look for an anchorage, you look for a bay. There's plenty of them along here on the Derwent River. So study the map, look where you can where you can weigh anchor, have a look at what's going on. There's quite a few marinas here. Okay, there's any drama, into a marina, jump on the blower. So that's old talk on the phone. I'm down a major river system. I'm near Metropolis. I've got phone. So there's all these little things that I can give myself to comfort my mind. Isn't it? To minimize that impact of the uncertainty or the anxiety or the what if, the non-beneficial what if, and to convert it into, well, what if I get there and get there and get there? Then I've only got to go there. So then I can anchor there, and then I can look at a better place, because here in this metropolis, you got to be careful. It'll suck you in. And that's happened a lot in my life, where I've got comfortable in the unpleasantness. Go back to Connor the Woodsman, about him, where he was in his job. Yeah, I could really relate to what he said, because I was in a similar job and I was constantly whinging and complaining about the job, but I wasn't creating anything outside of the job. So it wasn't the job at the end of the day, it was me. It was just me, and everything around me was just echoing that. Wow. And what I was wanting to get at is, if you do that too much and you repeat that loop, you'll weigh yourself down into this place of being obligated to that which is emotionally draining. But you are the source of the source. Remember that? Yeah. finish off my cold coffee. May you got some value out of this. And that's the thing. That's the 10 degrees up every day. Remind myself. 10 degrees up every day, mate. Every day, every way. Like there's something that I can do. And by putting myself into this predicament, right, coming across the content produced by that David Fellow and Connor the Woodsman, there's these little friendly nudges to say, hey, it's possible. It's possible. Look, you just need, like, remember when I say you, this is me talking to my reflection. Or the higher self talking to my evolving self. You just need to be the instigator and the motivator and the creator of all of the wonderful things you seek to obtain. And avoid being stagnant in your consumption, even if that consumption helps you create. If you, like, I'm sort of pulling a bit out of what Connor was saying because it's so true, and I've already spoke of this before, so it's not necessarily like I'm piggybacking on his video, but it was interesting because I could relate to everything that he said, almost in parallel with my own life. I tell you. But another thing very important though, he said, like, it didn't just, you're not just watching everything happening now. As he'd been doing these videos, I believe at the time of that video, up to a year, or if not more. And then it just started to go boom. Okay. Yeah, I believe he said something along the line, like, yeah, just keep, it's casting the seeds, but then it's also, where are you casting the seeds? That's something to be mindful of. And what seeds are you casting? But there are laws, there are principles and values that existed way before us, and they'll never go anywhere. And they can't be manipulated per se. So that's my contribution to the goodness that's out there in the world, to that which may be a source of benefit. It's a bit like a watering can, right? I can water a brick, I can water a weed, I can water a rose, I can water a tomato plant. All of those things will grow but one, and all of those have a potential benefit. But only one of those benefits can really aid in giving me some type of nutrition as being the source to help produce the source. You know what I'm getting at? So the tomato plant. So it just makes sense then. Water the tomato plant. Bump it, punch it. Be good, be great, be brilliant. Be the best you can. Do what you can with what you have. You'll get out of the poo. You'll get there. And it may seem like, this is never ending. But time is time. Sun goes up, sun goes down, right? Then the moon goes through all its phases. Tide comes in, tide comes out. And you just do something. Just do something that you know, right? Now I'm saying to you that you know is beneficial. And maybe the emotion is coming from a little bit of the annoyance of, if only I'd done this earlier. Okay. But now I'm in a position, because I made so many foolish choices. It's given me this accumulative wisdom. It's given me this ability to reflect, to have these insights, to alter my philosophy, to share it out into the world, to be a contributor to that which is good, to be a contributor to that which has the ability, as I said, to produce and provide and elicit and promote a benefit in those who decide to consume what it is I have to create. And to stop denying the weight of my intention behind why I'm doing it. And who knows? I might come into my 50th winter and go, you beauty, like I did. Like I made it. Maybe I'll be 55, 60. It's part of the story to be someone who actually gave it a go. As Yoda said, there is no try, there is do or do not. So ask yourself the question, what is it that you'd rather be doing, and what is it that you're doing to get yourself there?